Hello there, and welcome to UK Diesel and Electric Railway Modelling, and part 2 of this project, the renumbering of a Bachmann Class 47 in Rail Express Systems livery. In the previous video I explained the detail elements of the Class 47s and how it relates to this model and research which prototype I wanted to change into. This is the modelling part. Because this model is a named example, turning it into an unnamed example requires dismantling the loco because it's going to need to be varnished with an airbrush. First, the screws are removed, a silver one at each end behind the coupling, and 4 in holes alongside the bogies. As you can see, I'm using a plastic tray to deposit all the parts in so nothing gets lost. Pop the body off the chassis by pushing something flat between the body and the chassis and unclipping the chassis under the cab doors. Remove the cabs. Then the glazing. Use the blunt end of a paintbrush. The internal light circuit board should be removed by unfastening the tiny screws. It's pretty easy to remove the glazing on a Bachmann 47 because they aren't glued in too tightly. The only component that's awkward are the yellow marker lights, which need a sharp knife pushed between the body and the glazing. Just push and give it a little twist and the part will come loose. For the small red marker lights, put a small drill bit in a pin vise, but in backwards, with the blunt end to the outside. Gently push on the red marker light and it will pop loose. Don't push too hard or you might lose it on the floor. The orange TDM jumper cables have been removed for this project, so I take a modelling scalpel and slice between the body and the cable mounts until it falls off. If you want to just renumber a loco, then you don't need to do this. The cable is plugged into a pair of holes top and bottom. Where these have been removed, they're going to leave some raised bumps where the glue and the hole are, so I'm going to have to sand them smooth. As a result, I'm going to remove the handrails so I can access the area easily. To remove the vertical handrails, just wedge a flat screwdriver under the handrail. Put your thumb on it so it doesn't fly off somewhere, and rock back and forth until it pops off. If you look here, there's a thin line vertically along the corner. This is a mould line in the body as a part of the plastic injection process. Since I'm filling in the area where the jumper cables were, I might as well take the opportunity to remove the mould line at the same time. The front end will need a repaint, but that's fine as it was what I was intending to do anyway. Now that the body's stripped down, I'm going to get rid of the numbers and nameplates. You'll need some Q-tips and some isopropanol alcohol. Dip the Q-tip into the IPA, roll it in your hand to remove any excess so it doesn't drip on the model. And then, just rub back and forth. This takes a few minutes, but gradually the white paint will thin down and you'll be left with a plain red surface. Don't rub too hard in one place because eventually you'll go through the red paint too and hit the body shell. If you notice, the surface is shiny. This is where I've moved the top layers of paint. The same technique applies to the nameplates. Because there's 2 layers of paint to get through, I'm adding some blobs of IPA and giving it a few seconds to work on the silver and black. As soon as I start rubbing, the black starts to come off, but the silver still takes a lot more work. Don't be tempted to use some wet and dry, just keep rubbing, it'll come off in the end. When it's all off, just wipe the Q-tip over a wider area just to blend it in. If you notice here as I twist it, you can just about see the ghost of the nameplates on the shiny surface. Now the numbers and nameplates are all gone, I'm going to clean up the ends. I use knifing putty. The same stuff is used on filling dents and scratches in cars. Once it's dry, it's nice and hard, and it can be filed for a nice smooth surface. I put some on a piece of cardboard and I apply it with the black of a curved blade, spotting it into place and smoothing over to push it down. It sets fairly fast, but I take the opportunity to take a break and leave it for the next day. With a curved blade, carefully cut away the raised lumps, and then use wet and dry to sand it down. This is 600 grit. These are not specialist sanding blocks I'm using. These are pieces of a normal cork sanding block which I've cut into wedge shaped pieces with nice pointy corners so I can get into small corners and nooks and crannies which would be hard to reach with a normal sander. I keep sanding until there's almost no putty showing, only in the recesses of the hole. While I'm at it, I sand away the mould line along the curved edge of the body, being very careful to stay on the yellow part, but don't go into the red part. Once it's sanded up to what seems fine enough, I move on to some finer grade wet and dry to smooth it right down. This is 2500 grit. Check with the light to make sure there are no raised bits. You see, I wet the tip from time to time to lubricate and polish. Finally, I wet a Q-tip and wipe the area clean of any residue. With it all polished and clean, I now apply some masking tape on the edge of the red and another across the top of the windscreen behind the lamp iron at the top of the nose. Once the body is fully masked off, I can respray the ends. On most Res 47s, the top of the nose is painted black, so I carefully paint this by hand. The key is to wipe across at the same level so you don't get a bumpy line. I also paint along the inside of the rim on all of the windows. Now that the yellow ends are nice and flat and the black cleanly applied, the body is sprayed with a gloss varnish. With the body varnished, the new transfers for the numbers and the overhead warning flashes will have something to grip to, and it will obscure the film the transfers are printed on. On small transfers like this it's barely visible, but on something large like Intercity logos it's easily seen if applied on a matte surface. These transfers from Fox Transfers have seen better days, but they're still good enough for this project. To apply water slide transfers, you can use a pair of tweezers and dip them into some water, or do what I do and drop some water on them while they're on your modelling table and let the water soak in. Give it a couple of minutes and you can pick the paper up and slide it onto your model with a small paintbrush. Keep prodding and poking the number until it's right where you want it. Once in position, roll a finger or thumb over the transfer with a piece of tissue, in a motion like you're given a fingerprint. Be sure to check a photo of the real loco before positioning your first numbers. Some are low down on the body with a lot of paint between the number and the cab window, others are higher up. You'll also see variation in between the spacing of the class digits and the individual number, so in this case it would be 47 gap 761. In this case the numbers have an equal spacing. Apply the overhead warning flashes to the ends. The body is then given another coat of gloss varnish, left to dry, and then because I intend this loco to be in a clean condition, I give it a coat of satin varnish. As you can see, the former nameplates are nowhere to be seen. Before I reassemble the body, I need to replace the buffers with ones from a Hornby Class 60. These can be bought off eBay for less than £5. To remove the original oleo buffers, rotate them slightly and you'll hear the slight snapping sound as the glue loosens. Wiggle until the buffer comes off. The Hornby buffers are slightly bigger, so I use a small circular file to widen the hole. They also have a mould line, so that was filed. Once on, I paint the buffer shanks in black to cover up where they were filed, as well as the front of the buffers themselves. Now the chassis is ready, I can refit all the parts to the body. The glazing, the lights, the electronics, the handrails and the cabs. I also created some new horizontal handrails out of 0.45mm wire bent to shape. I used a spot of plastic weld to secure the glazing into place using capillary action to allow the solvent to flow around the part. Don't use too much or it will flow over the glazing and you'll end up with a frosted piece. Other people use varnish to achieve the same results. Before the body was fitted to the chassis, I painted the front handrails in silver. Finally, the body was refitted and the screws secured into place.